Hey, hello, good afternoon and welcome to Bubble and Squeak Live and Loud. Bubble and Squeak, of course, the leading PR company for the broadcast industry, and this next 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking all about live production. I have the three wise men of live production on the sofa. Yes, that right?
Yeah, that is right.
Excellent. Down the end there, we have Chris from NewTek. Afternoon, Chris, you all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Excellent. We have Jim from Portaprompt. Welcome to the show, and we've got Dan from Clear.com. Welcome to the show, guys. I tell you, before we get into the discussion of live production and how you guys interact with live production and work together, tell us a little bit. We'll start with you, Dan, about Clear.com and what you do.
Yeah, well, Clear.com's a company about 50 years old now, specialising in voice communications. Everything from the smallest scale of baked bean can on string, all up to the widest area comms across countries, across cities.
Superb.
I'm Jim from Portaprompt. We've been in the industry since 1970s. We, again, do products from iPad-driven prompters right up to 24-inch devices that would be used in a massive studio or environment like this where you want to launch a car or something. So we cover the work, that sort of thing.
And number three, finally.
I'm Chris Waddington from NewTek. We were founded in 1985. Our company develops multi-camera live production systems and slow motion systems. Our technology is used worldwide, from very small local productions to web streams, to creating internet TV shows, all the way up to full broadcast and stadiums as well.
So I think anybody listening to all of that will now have worked out why we've got these three guys on the sofa, because together, collaboratively, all involved in live production.
Yeah.
So I guess we ought to sort of define live production to start with, because I know all of you are involved in productions from the small end, as you were just saying, Chris, all the way to the top. So a live production could be something like we're doing right now. Something here, webcasting, that kind of stuff, all the way up to working on the Olympics or working on BAFTA, things like that. So where do you start on the live production as far as NewTek's concerned, Chris? Bringing in the TriCaster 40, I guess?
For the current range, we have the TriCaster 40. It's a little desktop unit, very low cost, still very powerful. And it's a fully integrated production system. So by that I mean that we have a video switcher, video mixer built into the unit. We've got media playback, we've got graphics, audio mixing, and live web streaming as well. So you can really, pretty much everything that you need to do to create a live web channel, if you like, is all integrated into that single TriCaster 40 unit. And then we can scale all the way up to the 8000, which gives you professional broadcast input, social media publishing, and again, that's a really interesting topic as well. Talking about social media again, what is a live web show, and how do you produce that live content, and where do you send that live content to as well? So,
and in fact, I suppose that this content's getting a lot content. Even shouldn't be dropping my teeth, even though it is day 3. I suppose this content it's getting easier to deliver, isn't it? And in some respect, it's getting, not always, but cheaper or more cost-effective to deliver. Cost-effective, would we prefer? Yes.
Yes.
So you were talking about the iPad prompt system, and that's coming at the bottom end. So it's
it comes in at the bottom end, but it isn't just being used by, as it were, bottom end production.
We were chatting yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah. I mean, the BBC and ITV use our bottom end product, but at the top end of news production gathering, and because it's an iPad, it's very compact, easy to take around with you, and they can travel around the world with the computer and everything in one little case, and the mirrors and everything are all safe and secure. And they send it back over the, probably a comm link, maybe not yours but somebody's, and gets back to London. But obviously, same product can be used in a tiny environment where a webcast is being done. We don't even have to use our through the lens system with an iPad. It can be an over the lens system, and at that sort of level you're sort of into the £100 bracket. So you can be really low end but still actually doing high end production.
I think that's the big point, isn't it? That you can, the things that are available like this, like the TriCaster 40, the iPad system. What about your lower end people getting in? Because comms is sometimes on the lower end of the budget. It might not be the first thing added, it might not be the last, but
it's normally the last.
It's the 2 tin cans I was interested in.
Yeah.
It's like trying to mix while holding a tin can to.
It's normally the last one considered in the production.
I wasn't being that rude then. What about that entry level for?
Well, in the last 4 years, it's changed significantly. A live event 4 years ago required a very large matrix system, and no one went past that. But as comms has moved into the digital realm, we're now finding people are taking smaller belt pack based systems, requiring less infrastructure to the event and deploying comms much faster than they ever used to. Still a place for the large matrix systems, but actually we're seeing a lot of uplift on the low end. As you say, the large broadcasters, BBC, etc., are not having to put, expenditure into massive core infrastructures.
And I think that helps the fact that they can cover more stuff as well, because you can go out with more of the smaller TriCasters. As you say, the news guys are doing it as well. On that sort of thing.
I think more people are creating content as well. I think especially when you look at what's being pushed out from social media and live web streams. People have been able to do that for years, but now there's so many people creating so much content, and it's quite interesting when you look at production value especially, and you were saying that comms isn't always the thing that's first and foremost in people's minds, but I think if people get into live production, what they tend to find is when you look at the content that you're generating, what others are generating, people will switch off if it's bad. And if you don't have a script and people having to constantly look at papers or ruffle papers or stutter their words, or the same with comms, there isn't that communication going on, then it's those pieces of the puzzle that can really lower the production value. Even you can have all the greatest equipment in the world, but if you can't communicate and you can't convey that story, then everything really tends to fall down a little bit and people will switch off. So I think it's important to have these different technologies available to people as well at a lower cost. So because at the end of the day, it's a craft. It is
indeed,
a craft.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not interesting, if it's not a decent story, why watch it?
Exactly.
Exactly. There's no point.
And really, with the three of you together, it's about delivering that message, isn't it? And knowing your audience, the fact that it is now so much easier to. We were talking earlier on actually about the fact that you don't have to go to a commissioning editor for TV or anything like that. You can go out and do it, and you guys are making it affordable. But I think it's a really good point about production values. I think if we went back a couple of years, maybe a little bit further, when the cameras started to get cheaper and the iPhone cameras and stuff like that, people were going out shooting stuff, but the production values are missing, and I think they're coming back. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the tiny GoPro is producing shots that are unbelievable, but if it hasn't got some sort of verbal content around it, after a few seconds you've sort of got over the excitement. So, and again, the magic helicopters that are able to do shots that, quite honestly, can't be done any other way. Again, but unless somebody's relating a story about it or something, the script really. I mean, obviously we're at the script end. We wouldn't necessarily be involved in that type of production, but the script is vital, and having somebody who is able to deliver a script is probably more vital.
That's why they don't give me one.
I mean, the part we play in this is, the best comms are the invisible comms. When it's gone down, it's been done, no one's noticed.
Yeah.
At that point, the focus is on the content side. It is on the getting the story right, it's getting the footage right, it's getting the delivery right.
Yeah.
If anyone's thinking about the comms isn't working, then we failed our bit. So that's where we specialise, in making sure that this bit is actually as transparent as it can be.
So we talked about sort of the smaller end of things. Let's talk about going to the bigger end. We've covered the entry level. Chris, with the TriCaster, there's a range, this new professional range, which you talked about with the social media and stuff, but bringing in the 3-play in for replays, you can go stratospheric with it, can't you, really?
You can do, especially, I mean, the most watched live event is sport. It's still, globally, it's the most live watched event, whether you're looking at football, Pro American football, the Olympics, Wimbledon, whatever, golf. It's the most, it's the most watched live event. So, and I think today, especially when you look at sport in particular, when you look at any sporting event, if you can't deliver replay, then I think you're really missing a trick, and I think people will very quickly switch off. They expect to have that replay deliverable available. And there's so many niche sports now that don't have the budget or they don't have the mechanism to put that content out to a traditional broadcast means, but there is still a tremendous amount of hunger, if you like, to consume and to watch that content by a growing audience. And I think the fact you can now democratize the delivery of the content by either social media or live web streaming, but also the fact that you can now have tools like our 3-play system, so you can still roll in that high-end replay value and be able to give a much better viewing experience to the audience without having to go out and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds.
That's the point.
That's the key.
It's making it affordable, isn't it? Particularly with the 3-play system. So there's in the States, obviously, colleges are using it.
Yep.
Big sports teams are using it,
Yep.
and that's starting to creep in here now. Obviously, the sports arena is not as big here in the UK. Obviously, we have the football and stuff, but because when it becomes affordable, they're able to use it.
Oh, definitely. And there's so many people using. I mean, again, not just 3Play, but I suppose I should talk about 3Play. There's so many people using it for different applications.
Should be wearing that jacket.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not just sport. You know, we have people that use it just, but they want multiple channels of video recording. They'll be on a movie set or a TV set, and they want to record all of that video content into a system. We have people that actually will use even a TriCaster not as a live device. Same with 3Play, but they will record all of the camera feeds in, and because we time code everything, they can then take them into a post workflow, and everything's synced up, everything's ready to go. There's no conversion of video formats. So even in a non-live environment, we're finding our equipment is going into those environments because of the workflow.
Are you finding? I mean, we talked about sports so far, but are you finding that the house of worship market is needing more of your sort of live content delivery? Certainly, from a comms point of view, the house of worship workflows are getting up to the broadcast level, styles of linking multiple countries and cities. Yeah. And from the user point of view, they want to sell the sermons afterwards. They want to keep people interested.
They do, definitely. I mean, again, and we talked about sports and growing sports in the States, and it's the same with the houses of worship. But we've also seen that growing massively, for example, in Africa, and we're also now seeing that a lot of those churches are taking that same production value and applying that in the UK as well. We did. One of our customers did a link up recently where they had 2 or 3 churches around the globe, and they were all linked up, and it was all mixed on the TriCaster. And again, they were communicating via networks, and again, there was communication in terms of comms, and we ended up talking about the delay and everything else, and how we get around that. But it's huge. I mean, the opportunities now to produce live shows, it's so simple. It really is, in terms of there's no barrier now between the equipment, and there's no barrier to the deliverable, because if you've got a camera, in my case a TriCaster, and an internet connection, you can produce any live show literally as many times as you want, and no one can stop you doing it, and that's the great thing about it. If you've got an important message and it's good enough and you've got an audience that wants to be able to see that, you can do it straight away.
So as far as getting that important message script-wise onto the show, are you finding that it's now putting in the methods to get the script with news? I know you're talking about iNews being linked to it, so with getting that script delivered to any prompter anywhere in the world, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have some sort of data link, obviously, for sucking the script down, or, I mean, the Olympics that were done in China, I know the content was being typed in China, it was being sent back to London and then sent back to China to be prompted. I mean, we weren't actually doing that, but that was the path.
Yeah.
So, but that means that the presenters are creating the script for themselves, and it's very relevant for what they've been experiencing in the country, rather than it being sourced from the UK and being told what to say. So yeah, I mean that sort of thing is vital. I mean, the BAFTAs is something we did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And in that case, we were running somebody on the red carpet, so that was the outside sort of thing. Again, it was just meeting and greeting and, talking about what was going on. And so that was incredibly live, and from our point of view, probably incredibly difficult, because who's going to come out of the car next is completely unknown. So from a prompting point of view, it's probably worst case scenario. But in the auditorium, obviously we had the main presenter, the anchor as it were, and then we had the citation readers coming in. So there was 2 other operators inside, one outside, and the main prompter, if you like, was driving the main links and such like. And then there was another one rehearsing the citation readers while the thing was going out. So there was a live presentation on stage and a live rehearsal backstage after the live meeting and greeting.
So it's all
that's the sort of...
I guess the other thing is, it's not just delivery of a script. It's like, for instance, if we look across to my camera there, it's got my idiot sheet of the Twitter address and the hashtag, which I still keep getting wrong, even though it's written there in front of me. But it's another way. It's another way to communicate, and you're tag teaming almost in that.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, drifting slightly off this thing, but a teleprompter can be used for other means as well. I mean, the thing we're showing on the stand here is a thing called an Interrotron, which is a device, primarily a teleprompter, but instead of feeding text to it in the normal sense. We send a video feed to it. And the idea is that people who are nervous, like me, can talk to a face rather than to a black camera lens. So for children and such like that, that's great. And our soldiers that come back from the Middle East, they've often been debriefed that method, so they're talking to a face who is talking to them, asking them questions and such like, and that's being recorded.
That's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because I think it is, again, with more and more people wanting to create their own live productions. I mean, we see it all the time. We see it in schools. We also see it in a lot of corporations, a lot of corporate environments where you have, you might have a CEO, you might have a CTO, someone that basically isn't used to being in front of a camera, but now the decision has been made to provide that content on a global scale in some instances, and they have to do a live web stream, and they're not used to being in front of that camera as well. So, there's so many people creating different content. It's just interesting that you said that you've got to put them in that familiarity and try and play it down a little bit, with all the lights and the cameras and everything. We're not used to it. Well, we certainly are.
You three certainly look like you're used to it. Proper real pros.
I mean, it's interesting. When you sit down, you think, where, what commonalities do we have? And actually, when you start hearing about this, when you start putting comms together, if it's a corporate event, if you say you've got people, CEOs coming in, those aren't used to the technical side, being able to put the event together simply is something that, from a communications point of view, you really have to focus on, because people don't have an engineer focus on comms anymore. We want to, take a belt pack, stick it on a line, and it just works. No one wants to be able to work out how to engineer the solution. And it goes through all of these solutions, from prompting to delivery. It has to be simple, and that's the essence now of, I think, of live events. It's got to be simple, deployable, and
exactly,
repeatable.
Repeatable. Very,
Well, the business at Portaprompt is it's hire as well as
we do
and it's
rental.
dry and wet hire as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
again, our kit is we dry hire, which the kit out to people who've never even seen it before. Usually get a phone call on how do you turn it on, but that's pretty much it, because if you like, over the years we've simplified down the front end of it, so it pretty much behaves like Microsoft Word, which everybody's familiar with to some extent or other. So by tailoring our software, which we write for ourselves, and our hardware, which we make for ourselves and then use ourselves, we've made it as simple as possible to go into somewhere, do it and come out, whether you're first time you've seen it or whether you've been using it for years. So, our operators are generally the last person into a production and the first one's out, for all the above reasons that we've made it quick and easy to get off and in. So, but it is about speed, keeping it simple. Rent it if you don't want to buy it. If you're only going to use it a couple of times a year, definitely rent it. There's no point buying it. And if you're only going to use it once, don't rent it, dry hire, wet hire it, because it really isn't worth the bother learning about it. I think that would be my suggestion.
And similar with the comms, I know you've got guys that are hiring it, but it's the fact, because I think this is the thing for the affordability. Going back to the affordable side of things, there's levels with the TriCast, there's levels with that, and you've got the level there as well. It all starts to mold together. But where do we see it leading now in live production? Do we think there's going to be?
From our point of view, it's all about networking. Our fortune for the last couple of years
We've
has
swapped
been
cards. We've done that. We've done the networking.
Oh yes, we have. Yes. For a minute there, you lost me.
I've already just connected on LinkedIn.
Not for the price stream today. Yes. So the other networking. It's all about networking.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's a small event, if we did ATP tennis end of last year, and pretty much all the comms was networked together, whether it be show caller to production. It was made for networking, and then for linking the other sites, linking other facilities, networking was everything for us.
And I guess the big thing with the comms is the fact that we talked about corporate and the more first-time presenters.
Yeah.
I know it sometimes seems like it, and you need to keep them calm. You need to keep them on there, and I think the big thing with the big thing with the comms is and making sure that everyone else around them is moving around and that everyone else knows what they're doing. It's that coordination.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have an event without comms, and you don't have an event, if everyone's shouting in your ear.
We should write that down. That's a good tagline. You don't have an event without comms.
I should be in sales.
Yeah.
We go there. We'll finish there.
So just since it's the last day of the show, I thought you've tell us how the show's been for you. I know I've been on all three of your stands actually over the last few days. Nice and busy.
Yeah, it's definitely been busy for me. I literally got dragged over here, phone on a mic and sat on the sofa in about 30 seconds.
That's
because I can't stop talking about TriCaster and 3Play. No, the show's been really good, to be honest with you. Yeah, good turnout. We've seen a real. We were obviously here last year. I mean, NewTek's been here for many, many years, but obviously the first year last year at the Excel. So changing venue. This year we've had a really good feedback from customers. We've seen a lot of corporate customers that we know have either purchased our equipment that we didn't even know had purchased our equipment, or repeat customers. We've seen broadcasters, we've seen houses of worship. I mean, we've seen the full gamut. A lot of education customers. We've got the local Ofcom channels, with this whole initiative over the next couple of years, all these local TV channels. So we've been seeing a lot of different people in all walks of life and everything else. So it's been really good for us. Really, really pleased.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I mean, the first day was absolutely amazing. We normally only have 2 people on the stand. This year we had 3, and at times we could probably have done with 4. I mean, God knows where we'd have put them, but it was packed. The second day was, I would say, proper normal busy. Today is a bit more relaxed, but that's as you'd expect. But no, it's been brilliant. I mean, we've been seeing repeat customers, brand new customers, huge amount of interest in the iPad product. So keep our fingers crossed.
Excellent.
Equally, it's been relentless at points. HelixNet, one of our digital wireless belt packs, that's taken on some real interest. A lot of House of Worship, I think, is the biggest theme for us in this show, where they wanted to put multiple sermons on and not go to Matrix, and that's really been our big event. The other side is we've got a technical partnership with Opticore, and that's actually drawn more people to our stand than perhaps we would have done just for straight comms, because now people want to put lots of stuff, video, audio and comms on one backbone. So now we're drawing a new customer base, which we didn't have before. So amazing show.
Superb.
Yeah,
Superb.
good.
So I think big ticks all around for the show.
Yeah.
Gents, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you. I think we've covered the live stuff. I'm just wondering, maybe as a little round off, a little gem of advice to people who are out there doing live production. What's the one thing that you'd say other than get comms?
Think earlier. Consider it earlier.
Yeah.
Plan ahead basically and get a decent script.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. At the end of the day, it is. I know we've been talking about, you need to have comms, you need to have scripting and everything else, and I guess we've been talking about how easy it is, and I think in some respects maybe we've made it sound complex, but it really isn't that. It really is super easy to be able to get into this and to create good live content. It's not difficult at all. Anyone can do it.
And of course, get down to a show like this.
Yes.
And speak to you guys firsthand.
Yeah. We'll speak to the seminars. Yeah.
Ask questions.
Excellent.
Ask questions.
Dan,
Thank you.
Jim, Chris, thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much for watching. You've been watching the Bubble and Squeak show live and loud, which of course is brought to you by Bubble and Squeak, the broadcast industry's leading PR company. Loads more to come here and at the show, so stay where you are.